The hidden reason chosen ones stay single so long. Chosen ones, have you been in this situation before? You're sitting across from someone on a first date, and within 5 minutes, you already know how this story ends. Their smile doesn't reach their eyes, their words feel rehearsed, and you're silently screaming, "Is this it?" If you've spent any serious time single, doing the deep inner work to know yourself, you've probably felt this. The longer you've been on this journey, the harder it is for anyone to impress you, not because you're picky, but because you've become allergic to anything less than real. Welcome to the hidden side effect of conscious singlehood, a razor-sharp lie detector, and a hunger for depth that makes most dating feel like a waste of time. Let's unpack why the longer you choose yourself, the tougher it is for anyone to measure up, and why that might just be your greatest superpower. Before dive into this message, if something stirs in you now, hit that subscribe button, type 777 in the comment section to manifest this clarity, and turn on the bell of notification so you don't miss any new video of the chosen bloom. Let's begin by the uncomfortable truth. Every day you spend time on doing inner work, you become a little more impossible to lies. And most dating interactions, they're built on lies. You didn't start this journey planning to become difficult to please. You just wanted to understand yourself better. But consciousness has a side effect nobody warned you about. It makes you allergic to surface level connection. And the longer this goes on, the worse it gets. The accumulation effect. Here's what happens when you spend months or years prioritizing your inner growth over finding someone. You develop what I call authenticity momentum. Each day you choose yourself, each boundary you set, each pattern you break, each wound you heal, it all compounds. 6 months of being single while doing deep work. You can still tolerate some small talk and performative dating. 12 months. You start getting restless during conversations about weekend plans. And then 2 years. You literally cannot fake interest in someone who isn't curious about their own psychology. It's like developing a refined palate. Once you've tasted real depth with yourself, in your friendships, in your spiritual practice, everything else starts to taste like cardboard. You don't become a snob intentionally. Your threshold for what feels nourishing just keeps rising. The daily recalibration. Every morning you wake up and choose growth over comfort, you're unconsciously raising your standards. When you meditate instead of scrolling social medias. When you journal instead of distracting yourself with unnecessary stuff. When you sit with difficult emotions instead of numbing them. Each of these choices is you saying, I deserve depth, not distraction. Your nervous system starts expecting this level of intentionality from everyone around you. You begin to crave conversations that matter, connections that challenge you, people who can meet you in the complexity you've learned to embrace in yourself. But the problem is most people are still operating from distraction mode. They want easy, comfortable, surface-level interactions. They're not necessarily shallow people, they just haven't developed the hunger for depth that comes from extended periods of self-examination. The immunity building process. Think of it like building immunity to a disease. The longer you're exposed to your own authenticity, the more resistant you become to anything fake. Your lie detector doesn't just get sharper, it becomes hypersensitive. Month 1 of conscious singlehood, you can overlook someone checking their phone during dinner. Month 6, you notice when someone's laugh doesn't match their eyes. Year 1, you can feel someone's unresolved trauma in their posture. Year 2, you know within minutes if someone is performing or being real. This isn't psychic ability, it's pattern recognition. When you've spent that much time studying your own patterns, everyone else's become obvious. The way they deflect with humor when things get real. The way they name drop to feel important. The way they agree with everything you say instead of having their own opinions. You've seen the pattern, felt the disconnect, watched someone laugh without their eyes wrinkling. The surprise factor dies. So ask yourself, when was the last time someone genuinely surprised you? Not with where they went to school or what they do for work, but with how their mind works. The longer you're single and growing, the more predictable people become. You start conversations already knowing how they'll end. You can spot someone's attachment style before they've finished describing their last relationship. You know who's going to ghost you, who's going to love bomb you, who's going to say they're not ready for anything serious after 3 months of acting like they are. This predictability isn't cynicism, it's pattern recognition. You've done so much work on yourself that you can see the work others haven't done. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The depth addiction. Here's what nobody tells you about doing serious inner work: it's addictive. Not in a self-help junkie way, but in a I can't go back to shallow anymore way. You become addicted to conversations that matter, to connections that transform you, to interactions that leave you thinking for days afterward. You crave being seen for who you really are, not just the version of yourself that's easy to digest. You want someone to be curious about your shadows, not just your highlights. You want to talk about the big questions, not just what happened at work today, but why you chose that work, how it shapes you, what it reveals about your deeper motivations. This level of intimacy becomes your new normal with yourself. So when you meet someone who can only operate on level 1 while you're living on level 7, the gap feels unbridgeable. The standards aren't higher, the tolerance is lower. People say your standards got too high, but that's not quite right. Your standards might be the same as they always were. What changed is your tolerance for settling. You used to be able to convince yourself that surface-level connection was enough. You could focus on someone's potential instead of their reality. You could make excuses for behavior that didn't align with your values. You could accept breadcrumbs of emotional availability and call it love. But the longer you spend alone, getting to know yourself deeply, the more impossible it becomes to accept anything less than full presence. Not perfection presence. Not someone who has no wounds, but someone who's willing to look at them. The time factor changes everything. 3 months of being consciously single might make you more selective. 3 years makes you almost impossible to impress with anything that isn't genuine. It's not that you become mean or judgmental, you just lose the ability to pretend you're interested when you're not. You stop forcing chemistry that isn't there. You stop making excuses for people who aren't showing up the way you need them to. Every additional month you spend choosing yourself over settling is another month of evidence that you deserve extraordinary love. Your nervous system starts to believe it. Your intuition gets louder. Your boundaries become non-negotiable. The beautiful prison, or is it freedom? This is the paradox of conscious singlehood: the more you heal, the more you become the kind of person worthy of extraordinary love, but the smaller your dating pool becomes. You've essentially created what looks like a beautiful prison where you're free from settling, but also free from the possibility of being surprised by someone who doesn't meet your immediately obvious criteria. But here's the plot twist nobody talks about: high standards aren't just a filter that keeps people out, they're a magnet that draws the right people in. The magnetic effect of authenticity. When you operate from genuine depth and maintain healthy boundaries, something interesting happens. You don't just repel people who can't match your energy, you become irresistibly attractive to those who can. People who are also doing their inner work recognize authenticity immediately. They don't see your standards as red flags, they see them as green flags. They think, finally, someone who knows their worth. Someone who won't accept breadcrumbs. Someone who understands that real love requires real presence. Your high standards become a beacon for other conscious people who have been swimming in the same shallow dating pool, desperately looking for someone who takes relationships as seriously as they do. The elevation invitation. Something beautiful happens when you refuse to lower your standards. Some people will rise to meet them. Not everyone, but the right people will see your depth as an invitation to explore their own. Your commitment to growth becomes permission for others to show up more fully. You'll start attracting people who say things like, "You make me want to be better," not because you're trying to fix them, but because your presence alone demonstrates what's possible when someone chooses authenticity over convenience. These aren't people who need you to complete them, they're people who are already whole, looking for someone equally whole to build something extraordinary with. So here you are, with standards that feel like both a fortress and a beacon. The longer you've chosen yourself, the smaller your dating pool might seem, but don't mistake that for a loss. It's a filter, sifting out the shallow and drawing in the rare souls who match your depth. Your refusal to settle isn't a prison, it's a liberation, a bold declaration that you're worthy of extraordinary love. Keep doing the work, keep raising the bar, and trust this: the right people, the ones who see your authenticity as an invitation to rise, will find you. And when they do, it won't just be a connection, it'll be a revolution.